All right. Next, we will consider log number 2905R1 by Mr. Courtney. For what purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition?
The clerk has an amendment at the desk.
Will the clerk please distribute the amendment? Without objection, reading the amendment is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman for the purpose of recognizing his, for purpose of explaining his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in my opinion, very straightforward, very benign amendment, which basically calls on the Secretary of Defense to conduct a feasibility study to investigate ways that we can help Ukraine develop centers of excellence for treatment of traumatic brain injuries and traumatic extremity injuries. Again, in 2009, NDAA, this committee created Center of Excellence within the Pentagon to deal with these wounds of war, TBI, as well as extremity injuries. And again, because of sort of hard experience, this country actually developed some very sophisticated, helpful ways to treat these injuries for soldiers who served over in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan. What this amendment says is that we should use this expertise to help our ally, Ukraine, in terms of developing its own centers of excellence, because they are suffering horrific injuries, 130,000 wounded based on the statistics up through the end of May. And I would just note that this amendment builds on an amendment that we passed in the last NDAA that was sponsored by my friend Mr. Scott, Austin Scott, that again talked about ways to start collaborating in terms of helping the Ukrainian defense healthcare system deal with these issues. This is, again, a follow-on to that to, again, specify that the Center of Excellence, which we know exists here in the U.S., to become engaged with their counterparts in Ukraine. And I would hope and expect members from both sides of the aisle to support this. We provide all kinds of assistance to our friends in Ukraine in terms of training and on equipment and operations, and certainly this would seem to be the least we could do in terms of trying to help people who are fighting for their country. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I believe this is a very thoughtful amendment. I urge my colleagues to support it. With that, I recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gaetz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure this amendment will pass, but I'm not voting for it, and here's why. We're funding Ukraine's government. We're funding their military. We're funding their pensions, and now we're building traumatic injury centers of excellence in Ukraine. It just feels like a bit much to me. I've got fatigue over the U.S. involvement in this conflict, and so I won't be supporting the amendment. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentlelady from New Jersey, Ms. Kiggins. I'm sorry. It's getting late. Ms. Sherrill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, think this is a very thoughtful amendment. Certainly in my own district, we gave money to one of our hospitals who is using battlefield medicine techniques as EMTs to better serve our area. I think this helps not only support Ukraine, our partner who supports us in our efforts of democracy, but also helps to develop even better battlefield medicine and techniques that we can actually use in the civilian world. So I'll be supporting this amendment.
Gentlelady yields back. Any further discussion? If there's no further debate, questions on adoption of the amendment offered by Mr. Courtney. So it means in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Recorded votes requested. Recorded vote will be postponed.